Hello everyone and welcome to Talking Business with me, Danny Pardoe. On this episode I'm talking business with Michelle. Now it's not every day you meet a copywriter who specialises in the accounting and finance industry and also writes children's books, but hey, such is the world of talking business. So here we go, without any further ado, let's talk business with Michelle. Hello everyone and welcome to Talking Business with me, Danny Pardoe. We've got Michelle here today. Hello Michelle, how are you?
Hi Michelle, Danny, I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you very much. And thank you very much for joining me, really do appreciate it. And we've got quite a bit to get stuck into today. And I'm not going to take any of your thunder away or steal anything from you with your things that you're going to say. But I suppose we do need to know, first of all, who is Michelle? Who are we talking to?
Well, I am a financial services copywriter and content writer. I've also written 13 at last count children's books. I enjoy writing, but I'm also very interested in numbers. So that's me.
Writing and numbers. Now that's going to mess with a lot of teachers' heads here, you know, because maybe you're supposed to be one or the other when you're at school or college, or you find your passions, and you found yours in writing and numbers. So I suppose we better find out how that came about. So let's go back to when you were, say, 16, 17, you're finishing your GCSEs and heading off to whatever your next steps were. So what did you do after GCSEs, or I should say, had you found your passion by the time you were doing your GCSEs?
Well, that's a really good question. I was actually writing an award entry this morning, and I've written about this very subject. So if we go back to, say, 1986, that's how old I am. I was doing O-levels. So I remember my teacher, my English teacher, kind of called me to the front of the class, and she ripped my work to shreds, basically, in front of everybody, and said it wasn't good enough, and I was going to get a D in my O-level, I was going to fail it, and I would never make a writer, and sent me back to my seat with my tail between my legs. And I thought to myself, I'm going to show you, you don't know what you're talking about. And so if we fast forward to August, when I get my exam results, I got an A in English, and she never spoke to me again after that. I think I've showed her up a bit, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, maybe that was the teacher's plan, but when you just said, yeah, they didn't talk to me again, it would have been I'd expect the teacher maybe go, yeah, see, I was doing that on purpose, but no, it looks like you did, you won that round.
Yeah, so I thought, well, I'm not going, she doesn't know what she's talking about, I'm not going to stand for this. So, but anyway, I mean, she did me a favour in the long run, because, I proved to myself that I could write well enough at that stage anyway. But I did kind of mess up a bit, I guess, when I chose my A-level subjects, because I took French, German and maths. Right. And it turns out I wasn't actually as good at languages as I thought I was, foreign languages, as I thought I was going to be. Yeah. So that was a bit of a struggle. And I didn't get the grades I wanted to go into university. And I was hoping to study law originally. And so I thought, right, I can't be doing my A-levels again. I can't get into uni, so I'm going to go and look for a job. And I thought, I'll go and see if I can get a job in a law firm, as an office junior, and work my way up that way. So that was my plan. And I got an interview to go along to an agency. So I get all suited and booted. I go up to London, and I go in and I give my CV again, which they've already had. And I'm waiting, because I'm supposed to be, like 10 minutes time, I'm supposed to be going to this interview. And this woman comes out the back and she says, look, I'm really sorry, but we can't put you forward for this job. I was like, why not? She says, well, I think you're just going to be really bored. You've got too many qualifications. This job is like photocopying and, tidying up and what have you, filing. So I'm like, well, you could have told me that before I trekked all the way up to London.
Yeah, they'd already read your CV, so they already...
Yeah, it was very odd. They could have told me, there were phones back in those days. I'm old, but I'm not that old. They could have told me. But anyway, so I'm up in town thinking, right, what do I do now? Wandering around Oxford Circus, looking in Topshop, thinking, what am I going to do? And I happened to go past accountancy personnel, right, which doesn't exist anymore. I think it was taken over by Hayes. Anyway, I thought, I've got nothing to lose. I'll pop in, see what's going on. So I went in and filled in all their forms and gave them my CV. and they said, oh, we actually got a job that's interviewing this afternoon. Do you want to go along? So I'm like, okay, what is it? It's accounts assistant working for Comran Design Group, which is part of Terence Comran. So okay, give it a try. No expectation whatsoever. Went along, had the interview, got called back for the second interview, got offered the job. So 2 weeks later, I'm joining a company as an accounts assistant, and that's where I stayed I stayed in accountancy for 23 years. So that's how I accidentally became an accountant.
You just happened to be wandering around London, and there happened to be
nothing better to do.
Yeah, the shop front of the agency looked enticing enough to say hello. And
I thought I'd better make some, effort to do something, given that I bought a new suit and
that's right,
the train fare.
Yeah.
And my dad was going to go nuts because nothing happened with this job. So that's what I did.
Well, I think 23 years later, that journey has been worthwhile. So I think the suit worked, the train ticket was worth it, and
it was.
that all seemed to have panned out in the strange way of things that, you're supposed to have everything planned, aren't you? And you're supposed to know what you want to do, and everything's going to, maybe a few setbacks here or there. And I think you've shown that there is no straight line.
I don't think it really works like that for anybody, does it?
It doesn't, no. I was wondering, because obviously English was something you were extremely talented at to get the high grade in GCSE. How come that wasn't one of your A-level choices?
I'd already kind of decided my choices before I got my exam results, and I got decent enough grades in my French, German, and maths at GCSE.
Yeah.
And I kind of, I don't know, I thought that's what I wanted to do something with languages and law. That was kind of my thinking at that time. I knew that obviously English would be useful in the law. But looking back, I think I probably could have chosen better. But I think I was put off as well by, my experience with the teacher, really.
Yeah.
I mean, we always remember, we remember the good teachers and we remember the not so good teachers. We kind of don't remember the ones in the middle very much. But
that is
she was definitely not so, not particularly inspiring, let's say.
Yeah, and how things then work out to, obviously you maybe stumbled into your passion, maybe that's the right word to say, but obviously to do something for 23 years, you don't do that if you're not finding some kind of enjoyment or satisfaction with it, I presume. So, I mean, how did you know when you were starting your accountancy career, once you'd done a little bit of it, was it an instant thing of in your first week or so, you're like, this is the business, this is what I want to do? Or was it a couple of years in and surrounding yourself with people and then thinking, I'm going to stay in this industry? I mean, were you still thinking of changing? It was just a job for a week or two? Or what was your kind of thought process back then?
I think I got into it quite quickly. I mean, I've always enjoyed numbers. I like puzzles and games and patterns and things like that with numbers, and maths was always one of my favorite subjects at school. And not that you don't have to be particularly good at maths to be a good accountant, to be honest with you. You have to be able to use a calculator and a spreadsheet and add up and create percentages, and that's pretty much as far as the maths goes. But I always enjoyed working with the numbers. I think very quickly I did realise that actually this is something I could make into a career. So I think by 6 weeks in, I decided, right, I'm going to forget about the career in law. I'm going to study my professional accountancy qualification and make that my career. But I always had this sort of desire at the back of my mind to write a book, either a novel or later on that kind of evolved into the desire to write children's books.
Yeah,
I had a book on my shelf for many years, which was entitled something like How to Write a Children's Novel and Get Published, which I'd read several times, but never actually done anything with until very recently.
Yeah, so I mean, that changed then, and we'll get stuck into the business that you run at the moment as well in a few moments' time. But obviously then accountancy and writing children's books isn't I don't know, maybe a stereotypical or a thing that you would think of as there's an accountant in an office somewhere and they also write children's books. That doesn't seem to add up. So was the children's books was it done on the side, or did you leave accountancy to do that full time, or how did that kind of change, or was it a change, or was it at the same time? I don't know.
It wasn't the same time, no. So the children's books have been written in the last 18 months, right. Sort of alongside my journey as a copywriter. But I think it was just always something I thought, it'd be nice to write a book. Like probably a lot of people have that thought. Obviously not everybody actually does it, but so I think, from an early age, I wrote lots of different types of things. I wrote poetry, and I always did a lot of writing within my finance jobs as well, because I enjoyed that side of things. I ended up, doing sort of communications work in the finance department, or I would write, the web copy, or I wrote a lot of finance training manuals for a project that I worked on at one point. And also even little bits of writing, like when you're doing management accounting and you're doing a variance analysis against budget, you have to provide some commentary on why things are different. And there were a lot of accountants that I worked with that were quite happy to work out to do all the reports, but they actually hated doing the commentary. But that was one of the areas that I really enjoyed doing.
So are you saying then that accountancy isn't just numbers?
It's not just numbers.
I don't know, there might have been a perception somewhere that accountancy was just numbers. And I'm not saying everybody thinks like this, but having taught for quite a few years and speaking to a lot of students who want to go into accountancy, and we've done units on management accounting and it's report writing and things like that. But sometimes there's still a belief that accountancy is just numbers. And I'm sure that for some people in accountancy, that might be the case. But I'm guessing there's a bit more to it.
I think so. I mean, if you're sort of more on the data entry side, perhaps a bookkeeper, then it is probably more just about numbers. But if you're going into as a management accountant or business advisory, then you've got to interpret those numbers, and you can't do that without words. So it's a lot more than just numbers. It's about turning that raw data into information that can drive effective decision making within the business.
Yeah, that's for people internal to the business, and obviously the shareholders, and then the media, depending on the size of your organisation, will want to know. So
absolutely, and managers who've got a budget that they have to manage to, and they're getting pressure from above to not go over budget, or equally not to underspend because they don't want their budget cut the following year. So there's always lots of work that needs to go around that reporting that isn't just presenting the number. And also sometimes the number doesn't really tell the story properly. You have to dig beneath that number and find out why have we gone over, or why. I mean, I had a stint in manufacturing accounting as part, when I was studying. As part of my qualification, I had to do very detailed management accounting. So I joined a company that was making air traffic control systems, so highly manufacturing accounting. And we did lots of very detailed price variance analysis, quantity variance analysis, really deep into the numbers to try and help managers understand where all the differences were coming from. So if you don't really understand the numbers, then they don't really tell you very much. There's no point in having the report unless you can make sense of what it actually means and translate that into a different action for the business to take.
Yeah, so you can actually do something with those numbers, and they don't just appear and then disappear into people use the terms data and information interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. What's the difference then between data and information?
So data is raw, just your set of numbers, and information is that data turned into something meaningful.
Right. So we've gone then from your accountancy career starting by walking past an agency to spending 23 years in the industry to writing children's books, and now you have your own organisation as well. So obviously there's been quite a journey there, and to take a risk and a chance. How long have you had what is your business? What do you do, first of all, before we get stuck into how long have you had it?
Yeah, so well, organisation makes it sound very grand, Danny. I am a sole trader.
Just take it.
It's just me. We can call it a business. Oh. And so I am a copywriter and content writer, which means that has nothing to do with legal copyright. People do make that mistake quite often, but a copywriter is somebody who writes for other businesses to help them sell or inform, basically marketing materials. So I write search engine optimized web copy and blogs. I write social media content, LinkedIn profiles. Those are the sort of my main services that I offer, if you like. But I've also done things like flyers, presentations, ebooks, poems, parodies, even for people who want to stand out at networking groups. Also all sorts of marketing related content, basically. But I mainly do it in the financial services niche.
Yeah. And how long have you been doing that for?
2.5 years now, so it's still quite new. I set it up in September 2019. So just to sort of give you the full story, I did 23 years in accountancy. So I actually finished working in accountancy in 2011. So such a long time ago now. When I had a lovely part-time job, my kids were little, and I was able to, get them and pick them up from school and everything. And I had this wonderful job that was partly based at home, part-time in the office, 1 day off a week, perfect. And then, of course, working for a big company, nothing stays the same for very long. Big reorganization came and they said, oh, sorry, your part-time role doesn't exist anymore, but here you can have this full-time one instead. And, if you like. And I said, I don't really like. So I took a redundancy, went and worked in my son's school for a couple of terms because it was on my mind to maybe switch career into primary school teaching. But although I loved working with the kids, I didn't really agree with a lot of education policy and how kids were being taught. So I decided against that. And then instead I set up my first business, which was antenatal education and baby and child first aid training company. Yeah. So that was back in 2013. And I ran that for about 8 years whilst also home educating my children through their GCSEs. Yeah. So that sort of took up quite a lot of time and then that brings us up to date to 2019. So yeah.
Your passions are really coming through, but you're finding things that you are passionate about, that you enjoy, that you feel strongly about, and continuing that now with your organisation. Let Me Write. Is that the?
Yeah, that's it's first little sort of play on words because my initials are ME, so yeah. Let Me Write. Yeah. It's amazing how many people don't pick that up though, so it didn't work that well.
I actually did, because that's capitalized, isn't it, on your website? And I thought, why is that? Oh, because the name's like really big at the top of your website. So I feel proud that I figured that out. But
thank you.
yeah, no, you're welcome. And I'm not just saying it because we're recording either. I honestly did. So this Let Me Write then, and obviously you said you found the niche of the financial copywriting and things. And I guess I'm kind of curious because I see, the way technology is changing and AI and things like that, and how quick we digest information now. I don't know if you've noticed a change, maybe even during the pandemic, how we kind of interpret and look at information and data, so to speak. So for a copywriter then, how are things changing, or do you see them changing when it comes to the fact that maybe our attention spans are smaller, that we're using different devices to access this copy in the first place? Is there much change that you're feeling in your industry, or is it still good old-fashioned people want to read the right words in the financial industry?
That's a really great question. I'm not sure there is one answer to that. And I obviously I'm still quite new. I haven't got 20 years experience in copywriting like I have in finance, but I think there's a place for for short copy. Obviously, you see things like Twitter and other platforms that expect short copy. but I still think there's a place for long form as well. And certainly, you know, the higher ticket price item you're selling, the longer your copy needs to be really to convert, because what you need to do is overcome all, you know, a potential client's objections within that copy for them to press the buy now button. So, you know, you can't do that in a few sentences. So I think there's definitely a place for you know, all sorts of different length of copy, different styles of copy. Informational content still very important. You know, when you have a question and you go to Google and you type in, how do I do XYZ? Invariably what comes back is a blog. Now, it's not going to be the landing pages of the homepage of a website. It's going to be, most times, it's going to be a blog. So for those types of content where you're, you know, helping people understand how to do something, why to do something, that type of thing, then, you know, actually, I was reading a piece of marketing material the other day, which was looking at the ideal length for that type of, you know, for blogs in different industries, and actually it's still around about 2,000 words, which is quite a lot. You know, so people are wanting to get, you know, a deep dive into how to do things, because if they can, you know, Google it, find a blog that tells them exactly how to do something, then you've helped move their business on, or their life, whatever it is that, you know, they're trying to learn about, without them having to outlay. And, you know, what it gets you back, gives you back as a business is trust and authority. So when they actually need to buy something, they're much more likely to come back to you because they trust you already. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. And the, I guess, so to speak, kind of the long game of it, but it's not just a case of buy this product from me, but you're having to build the trust and the relationships. And that can take a long time in a lot of cases, especially, like you say, the high ticket items that require more. They're not going to be instant kind of knee-jerk reactions, are they? And the importance of words is obviously still important, and the importance of image and social media tying into that. And you said you write LinkedIn profiles as well, which is really interesting, because I use LinkedIn a lot and I find it very useful for what I need it for. I'm sure I'm not utilizing all its capabilities, but why is LinkedIn so important, and what advice would you give to people kind of starting out on it? So if you're, say, you know, I've said to students, get yourself on LinkedIn, and they say, well, I haven't got anything to put on there. And maybe when you're 17, 18, that's probably the case. So, I mean, how do you get started on LinkedIn, and why is it important for people to be using it?
Well, I think, I always say LinkedIn is the best online networking platform on the planet, because yes, you can meet people on you know, mediums such as Facebook, but you haven't got the powerful opportunity to find people in the same way like you do on LinkedIn. So, you know, you can search, and you might have, even with the free version of LinkedIn, there's a lot you can do to actually find the right people that you're looking for, whether that's, you know, a client, or whether it's a new role, or even your first job. You know, if you use the search capability effectively, then it's a really powerful tool. So I would say to students, definitely, you know, get yourself on LinkedIn. In fact, I was helping my neighbour's son, who's at university at the moment. He's doing a marketing degree and he's looking for a placement, and it's quite tricky at the moment finding, you know, year-long work placements. So I looked at his LinkedIn profile, and, you know, quite a few things that I pointed out to him that, you know, could be improved, like getting a professional photograph, having a banner which sort of talks, if you're obviously a business, you're going to call out your ideal client on that banner, or you're going to tell them what you do and how to contact you. If you're looking for a role, you know, you can put stuff up on that banner which explains what your skill sets are and what sort of role you're looking for. And then obviously your headline is almost the most important piece of your entire profile, in my view, because it follows you everywhere, all over the platform. So it needs to be precise and useful. I actually wrote a post about headlines this morning, sort of looking at all that, you know, where a headline is not helpful. So, for example, founder of ABC Limited company doesn't tell me anything, or, you know, professional marketer doesn't really tell me very much. You know, there are a few different examples where people are not really utilizing that 20, well, I think it's 220 characters now, you know, to the best effect. So I'd help people to craft their headline, and then you get to the what about section, which a lot of people still make the mistake of writing like a CV or writing it in the third person. All of those areas are a great place to showcase your skills and your competencies. And even as a student, you have those. You may not have work experience, you know, but you definitely have skills and competencies. And it's about finding those little things that you've done in your life so far, which demonstrate to an employer that you are tenacious, or that you're determined, or that you're resilient. All the qualities that an employer is looking for, you know, that you're curious, or you're good at problem solving. There are lots of things that you've done in your life, even simple things that, you know, happen on a, you know, just everyday activities that can demonstrate, you know, what sort of person you are. And you can put yourself ahead of your competition, because your competition isn't putting that sort of thing on their about section. So that would be sort of what I would say to students. And I would also say, start to connect with people in industries that you're potentially interested in working in. And you know, you can do that even before, you know, as a 15, 16-year-old. And there aren't many 15 or 16-year-olds on LinkedIn, but there are a few, and they are way ahead of their peers, I think, because they're starting to build their personal brand, and they're connecting with the right people who might employ them in the future, or if they don't, they can certainly introduce them to people who might employ them. So if you're not on LinkedIn, you're missing a trick, in my view.
Yeah, I think that's an understatement. And I think as well, you know, it can be quite daunting for, say, a 16, 17-year-old to go on LinkedIn, and then all of a sudden you can connect or interact with CEOs and human resources managers, whereas you might never have done that before. But they will understand, on the most part, if your profile's looking like you said it should, they'll understand that you're at the start of your career journey. But yes, you don't have a work experience history like theirs, because you're 17, you know, you're not 38 or whatever age it is. And it's getting over that kind of fear of, well, I'm starting, yeah. And if the personal brand starts here, and you might have your LinkedIn account for, who knows, 30, 40 years, where we go with LinkedIn and social media. So it's important, you know, like you say, to get stuck in there. So, I mean, what's next for you then, now that you've got Let Me Write, and you've got your 13 odd children's books that you've done? I mean, are there more children's books coming? What's next for your organization? I'm still going to use the word, Michelle. You know, without giving away too many trade secrets, have you got plans for the future, or are you just going to keep ticking along and seeing how things go?
I've got a few things in the pipeline, so I'm focusing a lot of my marketing on LinkedIn at people who require help with their LinkedIn profiles and sales posts, let's say. That's sort of my thing for 2022, not 2020. And as well as a couple of other areas of writing, which I'm trying to develop at the moment. So case studies for businesses is my latest sort of service offering that I'm keen to you know, expand. And also award writing. So, you know, writing entries for businesses who want to enter awards. So those sort of are the three things that, from a copy sort of content writing perspective, I'm focused on. In terms of the creative writing side of things, I'm working with a company in America to write some children's books for them at the moment. So that's very exciting. It's my first US client. So I've gone global now.
Yeah.
And I'm also writing my own novel and another book. So a book about aimed at parents who are considering home educating their teenagers. So it's sort of the guide that I would have liked to have been able to read when I took the decision to take my children out of mainstream school.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
So that's keeping me out of mischief, all of that lot.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say that is going to keep you busy. Good grief. Yeah, you're not just ticking along, are you? That is some big plans you've got there. So where can we be? I'm going to ask you one last question in a minute. But before I do that, where can we find out more about you? What are your Twitter handles and all those things? And I'll put them on the screen and all those kind of things. But where can we go for more info?
I guess the best place really, if you want to chat to me, is LinkedIn. That's where I hang out most. I do have a Twitter handle. I'm not there as much, but I do. Obviously, I monitor all of my socials. So, so Twitter is at Let Me Write UK. LinkedIn, I'm just Michelle Eshkeri, and I'm the only one on there, so I'm pretty easy to find.
There you go.
Yeah. And then I obviously have a website, which is letmewrite.co.uk, which is still a work in progress. Because when you're writing blogs for other people, you never actually get round to writing your own blogs. So
I guess there's a certain irony there, isn't it? Like, I must update my website once I've done all this work updating people's websites. So
yeah. So I have actually written a blog this week, but I tell my clients, you should blog every week, and then I probably blog about once every 6 weeks because I don't have time to do it for myself.
Make sure you're consistent on social media. It's like, I'd love to be if I had like 10 minutes.
I mean, I write on LinkedIn every single day, so that's my consistent platform. So if people want to see the sort of stuff I do, that's the place to go.
Nice. Okay, thank you. So one last question then, which I haven't prepped you for, but this is how I roll, I suppose, towards the end of these conversations. If you could go back to when you were 16, 17 and give Michelle a little bit of advice that you wish Michelle had maybe stuck with or took on as a mantra or used going forward, put it on a t-shirt or a hat or something, what would that mantra or that advice have been that you wish you'd listened to?
Oh, that's a good question.
Thrown it back to 1986, I think, was it? 87.
I think I probably would have told myself to be less worried about what other people thought of me. Yeah, I think that's what I would have said.
Nice advice. Thank you.
Simple as that, really.
Yeah. No, that is great, simple advice, and I think I'd probably agree with you completely, 100%. So, no, thank you, Michelle. Really appreciate you talking business with me. I do. I've learned lots here, and I'm going to go straight into my LinkedIn and see what it looks like. And if only I knew someone who could help me. But anyway, no, thank you very much. I really do appreciate your time, and thanks for getting in touch to speak. And
lovely to chat to you, Danny.
Yeah, thank you. And I wish you all the best for Let Me Write and your children's books and your other books and your copywriting and your LinkedIn. And oh my gosh, I'm running out of things. So no, thank you. Have yourself a great day. Stay on the line for just a second or two, if you would. We'll say a proper goodbye. But until then, I'll just say cheerio and thanks for talking business.
Great to chat to you.
Well, if you ever needed an example of following your passions, I think that was a great one there. So thank you very much, Michelle. Really do appreciate you spending the time to talk with us here at Talking Business. It really is much appreciated. And to everybody else, thank you very much for liking, sharing, reviewing, rating and subscribing, doing all those good things. I do really appreciate it, and it helps other people find the podcast too. So until next time on Talking Business with me, Danny Pardoe, I'll just say cheerio.